All right, let's begin. Welcome to Click to Science Webinar Wednesday. This month's webinar is about bringing STEAM-powered learning to your after-school program. And I'll be sharing some research and strategies about integrating arts into your program and doing it in a way that it's going to build creativity, design skills, and communication skills for the youth in your program. I view STEAM learning mostly like a lot of other STEM learning as giving us problem-solving strategies that we can use in all areas of life. And I think that STEAM is particularly important when you think about the innovators and trailblazers that are important in culture today. These pioneers are communicators who design, craft, and experiment with new ideas in science, technology, engineering, math, and art. So building these STEAM skills is going to help you be that next wave of innovators that's going to take us forward in new directions in STEM and in technology and in arts. My name is Sandra Frericks, and I'm a science educational specialist with the Click to Science PD team. I'm not an arts specialist, so I'm going to rely a lot on the expertise that we have as a group. So if you have particular resources or expertise in STEAM or in the arts in particular, I encourage you to share those in the chat box to keep that conversation going, to ask questions, share ideas, and if you have resources, links to those, everybody always likes to see the resources that other people can bring to these webinars, and I will capture those to share with everyone at the end of the webinar today. So please use that chat box and get the conversation going. I want to start by thinking about what STEAM really means. It's an acronym that's for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, but it's also a lot more than that. STEAM is an interdisciplinary way of thinking and developing creative problem-solving skills. And that's what the focus is going to be on today's webinar, is how you can integrate the arts in a way that really helps develop creativity, problem solving, and also motivation for the youth in your program. STEAM learning experiences create a lot of unique opportunities for students. Research in this area shows that STEAM learning creates a rich cognitive environment that benefits students' attitudes towards school, that develops their self-confidence and their skills. The Arts and After School Report from 2008 does a great job of bringing together these research findings and the impact that STEAM programming in after school can have on self-confidence and skills for young people. I'll share a link to that report with everyone at the end of today's webinar. Yep, I don't think I have it ready to share right now, but I will share that with you when I post the recording. STEAM also brings new opportunities for youth to be creative and to express themselves. Students who participate in after-school arts experiences see themselves as more able to express themselves and approach life tasks. STEAM experiences increase their motivation and their grit as well. So it brings all of these opportunities, which may be in your program already, but it really enhances that creativity and self-expression and helps them apply that in all areas of life. And finally, research is clear that the arts also contribute to enhanced reasoning, cognitive development, and critical thinking skills. When art is integrated with STEM, students have more opportunities to apply these skills. And the brain develops new ways to collect and synthesize information through arts experiences, which leads to new problem-solving strategies. So an arts experience, whether it's music, visual arts, movement, all of these things help brain development and synthesis of information so they can use information in different ways and be more effective at problem solving. Arts experiences help youth get comfortable taking risks. And as they become more willing to take risks in learning and more skilled at synthesizing information, they're more able to grasp new ideas and new points of view. So it also contributes to interpersonal skills and development. So, how can you do this? Here are some tips about getting started with STEAM in your program. And several people in the chat box says that they are interested in beginning the process of integrating more arts into their program. And I will share some resources with you later about where to find those experiences. But here's some real practical strategies about how to get started. And the first step I recommend is that you start with the easiest pathway. So find out what are the interests of the youth that you're going to be working with and also the staff that you have on your team now. You may have hidden expertise within your program already that you can use to get started with STEAM. If you've got somebody who has some interest in the arts or some experience or maybe some connections, make use of those. That's the easiest pathway to get you started. If that doesn't give you an obvious starting place, the next place is to look a little bit further abroad into your community. What resources are available locally? Are there local artists who could be advisors or mentors to the youth in your program? Do you have an arts organization that has already designed activities for youth that you could bring into your program? Or would they be interested in helping make those connections? Or maybe there's a science organization in your community, like a children's museum or a science center, that would be interested in helping you build arts connections. And don't forget the expertise that is already present in your middle school and high school and community college, where you have arts instructors who are already working with young people. Talk to them about what ideas they have and how they might be able to help you integrate more arts into your program. I had a fantastic art instructor in high school who was very interested in digital arts, and he worked closely with our computer science instructor, and we did a lot of innovative things in digital arts because of their collaboration together. So look for those resources that may already be present. And finally, don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone. It may make you nervous to go into a new area or to take a risk like this, but it can have a huge benefit for your program and for the youth that you're working with. So take risks and try something new. And as you get started, remember that the research tells us that experiential, active, hands-on experiences are the most impactful in after school, in arts, as well as in other areas. So as you're planning activities, design activities where youth have the opportunity to collaborate, to chat as they're working together, or to work as teams on art projects, and include those active experiential opportunities. And most important, include time for reflection, for making connections between the STEM and the arts concepts, for helping youth understand what skills they're developing through those activities. That time for reflection being designed into your activity is really critical to make sure the learning is happening. And finally, one more tip. Research tells us that more is better with arts, that the more different arts experiences children have, the greater the impact. So layer one STEAM experience upon another. Try out different things and have lots of different opportunities. As you begin to integrate STEAM into your program, you're going to need to be able to distinguish between after-school crafts, after-school STEM activities, and STEAM-powered learning. So I want to talk a little bit about how you find the difference between these types of programming, all of which may be important in your program, but you want to be intentional about which ones you're using. Let's start with after-school craft activities. Crafts tend to have specific steps to follow, kind of like a recipe, and following the directions is important. The focus on a craft is usually on workmanship and the product. Creating a good product is important when you're putting together a craft. If your craft is a gift for parents that they're going to take home over winter break, or a Halloween craft, the product is important, and that's part of what defines it as a craft activity. A STEM-related craft might be to make a color wheel, or a STEAM-related craft, I'm sorry, might be to make a color wheel by cutting out colored images from a magazine. There's a lot of arts content here and some science too, but the activity is really more about following directions and solving problems. So they can learn a lot, and it's a valuable STEAM activity, but it's not a STEAM learning experience because it's a craft. And in the end, a color wheel that puts orange next to green is incorrect. That's not the goal of that activity. So that's kind of what defines a craft. Now, a STEM activity is one that emphasizes the science content or technology, engineering, or math over the design or the product. So it's the content that is the emphasis. And I'm going to use a STEM catapult activity as our example as we explore this a little bit more. So if you're having the kids build a catapult, a really good STEM activity, you'll probably stop partway through the process to discuss with them which catapult design has the greatest force and why. You might introduce terms like potential force and explain that as they pull back their catapult, they're creating a potential force that will act on the projectile when they release it, and that's what's going to move the projectile forward. And then you could discuss different strategies they could use to increase the force in their catapult to make it go further, or to be more precise about where they're firing it toward. And that would make it a STEM activity where you're using the activity to give them some hands-on experience and understanding of the science content. But a STEAM learning experience would be a little bit different. Let me show you what that might be. This is an example of how arts can be integrated into a catapult design challenge. And what you're seeing here is a summary of the standards that are covered in this activity. And I will share that link once again to this activity. I do have this one ready to share with you. And you can find that activity online focusing on STEAM education. So in this catapult activity, after the students learn about kinetic and potential energy, you're going to share some background with them about the artist Jackson Pollock, his art and how he created it. Maybe some images or video would be great here. Then you're also going to give the students the opportunity to observe a variety of catapults so they can construct their own design. It doesn't have to be any particular design. But after they make their catapult, instead of having them launch a mini marshmallow or some other small object, you're going to have them fling a pom-pom that has some washable paint on it. It could be watercolors or tempera paint. And they're going to target their catapult so that that pom-pom makes a pattern on some butcher paper. And they're going to see how that resembles the art that Jackson Pollock created. Then encourage them to evaluate and revise their catapult design so that they can achieve the desired work of art that they want to create, using color and motion to create that art. Just adding the paint in and of itself doesn't make this a STEAM challenge, but incorporating the work of Jackson Pollock and his action painting technique and valuing the art that the students create does make it a STEAM activity. Their catapult and their ability to use science to solve problems becomes a tool that they can also use to create art. So that's an example of what STEAM integration looks like, where you're bringing together all 5 of these areas and you have distinct learning outcomes in each one. There are a lot of different approaches to STEAM learning, and there are after-school programs that are really doing great things with music, with dance, drama, with visual arts or performing arts. But today I'm going to focus on design and design thinking as a way of integrating STEAM in your program. But I do want to remind you that more is better. So if you have the opportunity to integrate a lot of different types of arts experiences, if you have resources in different areas you can pull from, then I encourage you to do that. Offer as many options as you can that will engage, motivate, and challenge the youth in your program. The resources I'm going to be sharing today come from the D School at Stanford. And Stanford is a leader, an innovator in the field of design. The D School is well known for that. And their K-12 lab is experimenting with new models for bringing design thinking into elementary and middle school classrooms and after-school learning opportunities. So we're going to be using resources from the K-12 lab today, starting with getting started with design thinking. And that's another link that I will share for you. And you can see that this is one of the resources that they have available from the D School, but certainly they have many other things as well. This is the design thinking process that Stanford uses. Design thinking is an imaginative and a dynamic approach to solving problems. And young children are masters of imagination and innovation. So they have a lot of strengths to bring to this design thinking process. And that's what we want to focus on as I'm talking about this, is how you can build on the strengths that they have and capture those strengths to help them develop other strengths through this STEAM learning experience. Empathy is at the center of design learning. So you'll see as we talk through this process that it's also a really important opportunity to develop social emotional skills and interpersonal skills as they work on talking, sharing with one another, and learning from their peers. Before I go into this a lot, I actually have a video that is going to make it more clear than I think I could. So let me pull up the video for you.
Design thinking is a 5-step process to come up with meaningful ideas that solve real problems for a particular group of people. The process is taught in top design and business schools around the world. It has brought many businesses lots of happy customers and helped entrepreneurs from all around the world to solve problems with innovative new solutions. Step 1. Empathize. The purpose of Step 1 is to conduct interviews that give you an idea about what people really care about. We need to empathize with their situation. For example, if you want to help old people, you might find that they want to keep the ability to walk around. In your conversations, they might share with you different ways they can do that. Later into the interview, you'll want to dig a little deeper, look for personal stories or situations where things became difficult. Ideally, you redo the process with many people with the same problem. Step 2. Define the problem. Looking at the interviews, you can now understand the actual needs that people are trying to fulfill with certain activities. One way to do that is to underline the verbs or activities that the people mentioned when talking about their problems, like going for a walk, meeting old friends for tea, or simply going grocery shopping around the corner store. You might realize it's not so much about going out, but more about staying in touch. After your analysis, formulate a problem statement. Some elderly are afraid to be lonely. They want to stay connected. Step 3. Ideate. Now focus only on the problem statement and come up with ideas that solve the problem. The point is not to get a perfect idea, but rather to come up with many ideas, like unique virtual reality experiences, senior-friendly hoverboards, or a modified pushcart. Whatever it is, sketch up your best ideas and show them to the people you are trying to help, so you can get their feedback. Step 4. Prototype. Now take a moment to reflect on what you have learned from your conversations about the different ideas. Ask yourself, how does your idea fit in the context of people's actual lives? Your solution could be a combination of a new idea and what is already being used. Then connect the dots, sketch up your final solution, and go build a real prototype that's just good enough to be tested. Step 5. Test. Now test your prototype with actual users. Don't defend your idea in case people don't like it. The point is to learn what works and what didn't, so any feedback is great. Then go back to ideation or prototyping and apply your learning. Repeat the process until you have a prototype that works and solves the real problem. Now you are ready to change the world or open shop. To experience design thinking firsthand, do the free virtual design thinking crash course from Stanford's D-School right now. You will learn to design a new gift-giving experience. Find the
We are going to do one of the design thinking challenges from the D-School, but not the gift-giving one. That's another option, though, that you can do with the youth in your program. So did you catch all 5 of the steps of design thinking there? Let me pull up our PowerPoint again so you can see them. Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. What else did you notice in the video? Is there anything that struck you as you were watching the video? Share your ideas in the chat. What did you observe? What did you notice about the video? One of the things I noticed in the video is that process is very important. It's an iterative process, and that's an important part of what we want to get across as we're implementing this with young people. The D-School actually has several design challenges that you can use with the youth in your program in the K-12 area. So there's lots of ways to start. Some of the other things that we noticed is communication is really important in this process. Clarifying the problem is different from defining the problem initially, and it relies on that communication that you understand more after you communicate with other people. And finding an authentic audience is really important as you're designing. So what I recommend is, as you integrate this into your program, is to start with a design experience that connects to what the youth in your program already know and they're familiar with. Now, my first design experience was the wallet project. And it was a really good activity for the group that I was with, because a group of adults, we all had a wallet or something like a wallet that we carried with them. with us, and we could talk about that, and we could design a better tool for the purposes that we were using our wallet. And in fact, one of the things a lot of people noticed is that their phone takes over a lot of the experiences, or a lot of the purposes that a wallet once had. But I don't think that'd be a very good project for an 8-year-old to start with. I don't think they'd have the slightest idea what a wallet is for and what we really use it for. So the challenge that I've selected that we're going to kind of use as an example today is redesigning the school lunch experience, because that's an area that they have expertise that they can share. As we saw in the video, the first step is empathizing, to really start seeing that challenge or that problem from another point of view. So you've got your own ideas, and that's a starting place, but then you also want to hear about the experiences of others and incorporate those with your own ideas. So in this phase, students are going to practice their listening and their communication skills, and they're going to be really pulling a lot on those interpersonal skills. And this is the sort of packet that you'll have for them that they can look through, and it just takes you through that process step by step, and gives them room to record their thoughts, drawings, visual representations, or writing as they are listening and hearing someone else's perspective toward the school lunch experience. Then the next step is to define and ideate. And so they're going to use what they learned from their interviews to reframe the problem. And you can see on this page from the workbook that the activity challenges them to think about something they're familiar with in new ways. And you can also see that this is a very fast-moving process. They have 3 minutes after they've done their interviewing to capture those ideas and input that the other person shared with them. And then 3 more minutes to share their own point of view and really define that problem as they're going to tackle it initially. The next step as they ideate is to develop some ideas, to share those with others and capture the feedback. Design thinking encourages students to listen to their partner's reaction, not to defend their own ideas, but to get another person's perspective. And they're practicing those interpersonal skills over and over through this process, as they're also developing their creativity and problem-solving skills. After they ideate, the next step is to do some prototyping. After they do more reflection and thinking, and then they're ready to prototype. The goal of prototyping is to use inexpensive materials to quickly build a physical prototype of one of their ideas. They need to make something that can be held, that they can hand to another person or direct another person to, and that people can interact with. So they learned that the prototype is not the precious thing, but the feedback, the insight that having somebody use their prototype gives them is precious, and that's what they're supposed to focus on. In design thinking, prototyping is meant to be simple and fast. It's not a working model. It doesn't have to be to scale, but it is a physical object that people can react to. So they're going to get deeper feedback than they did from just sharing their idea with someone. And I have a couple of different ideas here about what prototyping can look like in an after-school environment. It doesn't really matter as much what the material is as it does that they have something that people can react to. After they build their prototype, students are going to use it to get more feedback. Again, using their interpersonal skills and trying not to be too attached to their own ideas, they're going to share their prototype with somebody else and have them respond to it. Part of the instructions for this test phase is when you test, let go of your prototype physically and emotionally. Watch how your partner uses it and misuses it. if time allows, you can follow this testing. Well, first you're going to follow the testing with some reflection and ideation to think about what their new design looks like. But if you can, this is a great opportunity to go through that process again and give them an opportunity to come up with a new idea or to revise their idea to get a better solution. And you saw how that worked in the video, so that they can go through the process more than once, especially for younger students. Having opportunities to revise their idea, to fail and learn from their failure is really important. So the process itself, the first time they go through it, is really fast. So you can get through the whole process, but it's okay to spread that out and add more iterations of that process, especially if it's a problem they really care about and they want to develop a workable solution. It's going to take more than one time through the process to be able to do that. Now, up to this point, I was really focusing on the problem-solving skills that are developed through design thinking and the interpersonal skills. And I haven't focused too much on the arts, but art is an essential component of good design, and it comes through the iteration process. So the first prototype they develop is fast and simple, and it's not necessarily going to have very elegant design. But as students continue through that iterative process and design our second or third iteration of their solution, then it's time to start thinking about the design of their product as well as the function. Help them think about the principles of design, such as color, bounce, pattern, and so on, so that they can create a design that both works and is visually, physically appealing. And that's really something you can bring a lot of modern solutions, modern technology to, because that is something that is driving a lot of the new solutions around things like a cell phone, that it needs to work better than a previous one, but it also needs to be easier to use. It needs to look nice. It needs to fit your hand well. All of those things are part of the design process. The core values of a design thinking experience are empathy for the people you're designing for. This is referred to as human-centered design. And the second one is experimenting and prototyping with ideas. The catchphrase for this is show, don't tell. Show your idea, don't tell it. And then the third one is the power of iteration. Students develop their skills as they use them over and over again. So iterating solutions, going through the process multiple times within a project, is key to having successful outcomes for the students. And it makes it more fun for them because they do get to having a solution that they're really proud of, though their first one may not have been a solution that they want to stick with. So, what's next? November 8th is National Day of STEM or STEAM. So, and that's November 8th, Innovate. And it's a day meant to inspire kids and families to explore and pursue their interest in STEM, in engineering, in technology, in design, arts, and math. So, I hope you can think about some of the ideas from today's webinar that you might want to try, such as the design challenge. We did the school lunch design challenge. There's also the gift giving design challenge that's appropriate for students. And there's several others as well. So check out the resources from the D School and see what different challenges they have that might be appropriate for the youth in your program. Some other ideas other than the National Day of Design. There's the cardboard challenge. And again, that's something you can Google search for, because there aren't instructions for the cardboard challenge. Instead, there's just lots of images and pictures. The idea is that you gather lots of different materials the students can recycle and give them the opportunity to use their imaginations and unleash their creative talents as they design and build something. The first cardboard challenge was an arcade, but there are lots of different things. And if there's a particular challenge you want to take on in your program, you can use cardboard to prototype a solution for it. The cardboard challenge teaches, again, lots of important 21st century skills like critical thinking, resourcefulness, perseverance, and collaboration. Another way to take this on, oh, somebody's already planning a cardboard challenge. It's a great opportunity. Is the 4-H National Youth Science Day, which is being featured in October. One of the activities for this year's National Youth Science Day Challenge is called Pitch Your Passion. And it helps students express their ideas creatively through digital communication. They use Scratch programming to create their own digital pitch for an idea using images, animations, and sounds. The real key to this being a great experience is to give them something to encourage them, help them figure out what is my passion, what pitch do I want to make that I really care about. The Pitch Your Passion resources are free, easy to use, and they give you a coding experience that you don't need to know anything about coding before you get started. You don't have to have experience. The kids don't have to have experience. So that's another great resource that you can use to get started with the arts in your program. Some other ideas here, creating their own music, having a music studio in your program, using Makey. There's lots of different resources that you can use. Excuse me. One of my favorite go-to sites, if I'm looking for something new and different that I can do with young people, is called How to Smile. And it's a website where you can search for lots of great activities, including some really good STEM activities that can integrate the arts, so you can get that STEAM component into your program. I think I made a mistake on my key ideas slide, but we'll go with it anyway. So I have 4 key takeaways from our discussion today. The first is that STEAM learning is more than just adding art supplies to your STEM challenge. It's really about seeing, listening, and thinking in new ways. So as you're integrating this, keep that in mind in how you set up the activity, that you want to focus on how they're making sense of the world around them and help them do that in more creative ways. STEM learning creates opportunities for critical thinking, empathy, and creativity. And you do this primarily by focusing on the process more than the product. So don't put as much emphasis on what they're creating as you do on the process that they go through to create it, and help them reflect and make sense of that process and understand the skills that they're using in that process. STEM learning can help youth develop new skills, new confidence, and the opportunities to collaborate, to work with one another, and to reflect on what they're learning is really essential for you to reach this point of them developing new skills and confidence. So it's important to keep collaboration and reflection as crucial parts of that STEAM learning experience. And finally, you can start small. Use the resources that you have in your program, in your school, or your community to take the easiest path. And then as your program grows, you can add more as you start to see results and success. You can reach out to new partners, but start first with the easiest path and then add more as you can. The more you can layer those experiences for young people, the more positive that outcome is going to be for them. Before we finish today, I do want to invite you to visit the Click to Science website and sign up for our newsletter there. We have some new resources coming out soon, particularly around the area of computer science. So the best way to hear about these opportunities is to sign up for that newsletter. We're also going to be doing a lot of new resources around engaging all learners, making STEM accessible to all, and how you can use that in your program as well. So sign up for the newsletter so you know when those new resources are launched. They'll be coming out in the next probably a few weeks, certainly before the end of the year. And one last thing is one of the opportunities that we have coming up soon is the National Trainer Institute, which it will be November 6th through 8th at a beautiful retreat center in Nebraska. The opportunity to register for this Trainer Institute is going to run out soon. So if you want a chance to develop your own skills as a trainer, as a provider of professional development or a coach, then sign up for this opportunity. It's a great chance to build a community with other people that are doing this type of work and really connect with some research-based experiences. And then you'll be part of this community of people throughout the US so that you can have lots of opportunities to connect and to be part of that experience. Thank you for joining us today. And if you have questions, please share those in the chat box. We did get one request for the link, so I will get that in the chat box as well. And I'll stay on for a little bit if you have questions or want to find more resources.